Stanley Martin Lieber was born on December 28, 1922, in New York City. His family was not rich. He lived in a small apartment with his parents and his younger brother. Stanley loved books and movies. He loved stories about heroes and adventures. He was a very good student and he finished high school early. He had many small jobs when he was young. He wrote news stories for a news service. He wrote advertisements. He even worked for a company that made clothes. But he wanted to be a writer. He dreamed of writing a great American novel. When he was just 17 years old, he got a job at a small company. This company was called Timely Publications. It made comic books. His cousin's husband, Martin Goodman, was the owner. Stanley's job was not very important. He had to make sure the artists had ink and paper. He sometimes went out to get lunch for the other workers. But he worked hard and he watched everything. Soon, he got a chance to help with the writing. He helped write a comic called Captain America Foils the Traitor's Revenge. This was his first comic book work. He was very excited. He did not want to use his real name for comic books. He thought he would save his real name, Stanley Lieber, for the serious novels he planned to write one day. So, he used a different name, Stan Lee. This name would become famous all over the world. In the 1940s, the United States entered World War II. Stan Lee joined the army. But he did not fight with a gun. The army used his writing talent. He wrote manuals. He wrote training films. He also wrote slogans and posters. This work was important. It helped the soldiers. After the war, he went back to Timely Publications. The company was changing. It was now called Atlas Comics. Stan Lee became the editor-in-chief. He was also the main writer for many comics. He wrote stories in many different types: romance, western, comedy, and horror. But in the 1950s, comic books became less popular. People thought they were bad for children. The business was not doing well. Stan Lee felt bored and unhappy with his work. He thought about quitting and finding a different job. In the early 1960s, a rival company, DC Comics, became very popular with a new team of heroes called the Justice League. Stan Lee's boss, Martin Goodman, saw the success. He told Stan Lee to create a new team of superheroes for their company. Stan Lee was tired of writing the same old stories. He was almost 40 years old. He thought, if I'm going to quit, why not try something new first? He decided to create heroes that were different. He talked with a great artist named Jack Kirby. Together, they came up with a new idea. Their new heroes were called the Fantastic Four. They got their powers from cosmic rays in space. But they were not perfect. They had problems like real people. Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards, was the smart leader. But he could be boring and he was always thinking about science. The Invisible Girl, Susan Storm, was kind and strong. But sometimes she did not feel confident. The Human Torch, Johnny Storm, was young and loved to have fun. He was sometimes reckless and caused problems. The Thing, Ben Grimm, was incredibly strong. But he looked like a monster made of orange rocks. He was sad because he lost his normal human appearance. People loved the Fantastic Four. They were a huge success. Readers liked them because they felt real. They argued with each other. They had money problems. They were like a family. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were very happy. After the Fantastic Four, Stan Lee worked with different artists to create more new heroes. He worked mostly with Jack Kirby and another amazing artist named Steve Ditko. He created heroes with personal problems and real-life challenges. This was his new style. He and Jack Kirby created the Incredible Hulk. Scientist Bruce Banner was hit by gamma rays. When he gets angry, he turns into a big, green, powerful monster called the Hulk. He is a hero, but people are afraid of him. He is always running and hiding. He and Jack Kirby created Thor. Thor is a Norse god of thunder. But Stan Lee made him interesting. His father, Odin, sends him to Earth to learn about humility. He has to live as a human doctor named Donald Blake. He and Steve Ditko created Doctor Strange. He was a famous surgeon who was very selfish. After a car accident, he could not operate anymore. He traveled to Tibet and learned magic. He became the Sorcerer Supreme, protecting Earth from magical dangers. He and Jack Kirby created the X-Men. These were mutants, people born with special powers. But normal people hated and feared them. The X-Men fought to protect a world that did not accept them. This story talked about prejudice and racism. And, of course, he and Steve Ditko created one of the most famous heroes in the world, Spider-Man. The story of Spider-Man started in a comic book called Amazing Fantasy No. 15. Stan Lee had to convince his boss to publish it. His boss did not think people would like a hero who was a teenager. But Stan Lee believed in his idea. Spider-Man's real name is Peter Parker. He is a smart but shy high school student. He gets bitten by a radioactive spider and gets superpowers. At first, he does not want to be a hero. He just wants to make money and be famous. But then, a thief that he could have stopped kills his beloved Uncle Ben. Peter learns a very important lesson. His Uncle Ben told him, "With great power, there must also come great responsibility." This line became one of the most famous lines in comic book history. Peter Parker was not a rich man or a god from space. He was a kid from Queens. He had to study for tests. He worried about money. He was not popular with girls. He felt guilty and responsible. Readers, especially young people, loved him because he was just like them. All these new heroes lived in the same world. Sometimes, Spider-Man would meet the Human Torch. The Avengers was a team that included Iron Man, Thor, Ant-Man, and the Wasp. Later, Captain America joined them. It was like a big, exciting universe. Stan Lee was the leader of this universe. He wrote most of the stories. He also found a new way to talk to his readers. He wrote a monthly message to the fans. It was called Stan's Soapbox. He talked about new comics, the writers and artists, and sometimes about important social issues. He always ended his messages with 2 words, Excelsior. It means ever upward. It was his way of saying, on to the next big thing. He also created a special style for the credits. He gave the artists and writers credit on the comic book pages. He called the artists and writers the Marvel Bullpen. He made the readers feel like they were part of a special club. The company's name was changed from Atlas Comics to Marvel Comics. It became incredibly successful. In the 1960s, this period was called the Marvel Age of Comics. Stan Lee became as famous as the heroes he created. He moved to California in the 1980s to work on Marvel's projects in television and movies. For many years, Marvel movies were not very good. But this changed in the late 1990s and early 2000s. With new technology, filmmakers could finally show these amazing heroes on the big screen. The movie X-Men was a big hit in 2000. Then Spider-Man in 2002 was a huge success. This started a new era for superhero movies. Stan Lee had a special tradition in these movies. He had a small cameo appearance in almost every film based on Marvel characters. Fans loved to look for him. He was a mailman, a hot dog vendor, a bus driver, or a wedding guest. It was a fun game for the audience. It was his way of saying hello to the fans. These movies became a global phenomenon. The Marvel Cinematic Universe, or MCU, became the most successful movie series in history. Characters like Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor became household names all over the world. Stan Lee's ideas and stories reached millions of new fans. Stan Lee worked until the very end of his life. He was a symbol of creativity and fun. His wife, Joan, was with him for 69 years. She died in 2017. This was very hard for him. In his later years, he had some health problems and personal problems with people who tried to take advantage of him. But he always kept his positive spirit. Stan Lee died on November 12, 2018, in Los Angeles. He was 95 years old. Fans all over the world were very sad. They remembered the joy he brought them. Stan Lee's life teaches us many things. It teaches us to never stop trying new things. It teaches us that heroes can have problems and flaws. It teaches us that with great power comes great responsibility. He gave us characters who were more than just strong people in costumes. They were real people who tried to do the right thing. He created a universe of heroes that will live forever in books, on television, and in movies. He inspired millions of people to read, to imagine, and to be a hero in their own lives.